But then they ask the person to hold three fingers up in front of their face and wave them, at which point the person becomes pretty grumpy and starts to say, oh, well, why should I have to do that?
Okay, so the first scam we're going to cover is the AI voice cloning scam. And this is where criminals will use artificial intelligence to clone the voices of family members, but also friends and trusted organisations, things like your bank. You'll essentially receive a phone call that sounds exactly like the person you're expecting it to be. Perhaps they're in distress, and they might, for example, explain that there's an emergency and urge you to move funds from your bank account. The scam relies entirely on creating a sense of panic from that person you trust and making you act before you truly think. So how do you avoid this type of scam? Well, don't rely entirely on the voice that you hear. AI technology is incredibly powerful. Also, don't rely on the caller ID that you see. There's very simple technology that can mimic that caller ID. And if someone asks money from you unexpectedly, always double check. Hang up the phone and call them back if you can. If you've got another device that you can phone them from, even better, because some criminals are able to stay on the phone even though you think you've disconnected the call.
And people may be thinking, well, how do they get hold of the voice in the first place of somebody that you know, maybe a parent or a sibling? Well, the theory is that sometimes they make calls, like surveys, via phones to that person, and they get them to ask a few questions, which will be enough to have a sample of their voice, which they can then use to create a cloned version. And I've seen some footage online where they've had video calls. So the person is sitting there talking, and they've got a voice and a face. So it's all completely AI generated as they're moving about. The person is saying to them, to prove that you are a genuine person, you are real, can you pick up an object in the background? They point to, it was a picture on the wall, and the person says, sure, and takes the picture off the wall. And they do all these different things to the point you think, well, this is actually a live person and not something that could be AI. But then they ask the person to hold three fingers up in front of their face and wave them, at which point the person becomes pretty grumpy and starts to say, oh, well, why should I have to do that? And it's quite apparent that they have an AI mask over their face, and what AI at the moment isn't very good at that fast motion. So when you move things very quickly, particularly hands and things like that, so it starts to blur it. So that person didn't want to do it because it would break the AI mask that they had when they were doing a video call. What it just goes to prove is that you almost can't believe anything you hear or see. So do always be cautious, as Andy says.